Ευχαριστώ. Καλησπέρα σας. Dear President of the World Human Forum, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you all for being today here. It is an honor to contribute to our shared exploration under the inspiring theme of re-enchanting the world. For nearly 2 millennia, the Eleusinian Mysteries stood as the most venerable and transformative religious experience in the ancient Mediterranean world. Located in the small town of Eleusis, just 22 kilometers west of Athens, these secretive rites centered on the myth of Demeter and Persephone, offering initiates profound insights into the nature of life, death, and spiritual rebirth. Despite the fact that participants maintained an unbroken vow of silence regarding the specific contents of the mysteries, the cultural impact and philosophical implication of these rituals have echoed through the centuries. Today, we are going to examine the defining characteristics of the Eleusinian Mysteries and explore their surprising relevance to contemporary spiritual, psychological, and ecological concerns. The Eleusinian Mysteries emerged from Bronze Age agrarian cults dedicated to Demeter, the goddess of grain and fertility, and her daughter Persephone, whose abduction by Hades became the central mythological narrative of the mysteries. According to the Homeric hymn to Demeter, the grieving mother wandered the earth for 9 days, searching for her daughter, eventually arrived at Eleusis, where she was welcomed by the royal family. In gratitude for their hospitality, Demeter revealed the secrets of agriculture and established her sacred rites at Eleusis, promising initiates a blessed afterlife and freedom from the fear of death. The mythological framework provided a tripartite structure that mirrored the agricultural cycle: the descent, loss, the search, wandering, and the ascent, return. This cyclical understanding of existence, emphasizing death as a necessary precursor to rebirth, distinguished the Eleusinian Mysteries from other Greek religious practices that focused primarily on propitiating gods for earthly benefits. The Eleusinian Mysteries operated on 2 levels. The Lesser Mysteries, held in Athens during spring, served as preliminary purification rites, while the Greater Mysteries, celebrated in September, constituted the full initiatory experience. Remarkably, these mysteries were accessible to virtually anyone, regardless of gender, social status, or ethnic origin, the sole requirements being that initiates had not committed murder and they were not able to understand the Greek language. This egalitarian approach was revolutionary in a society rigidly stratified by citizenship, wealth, and gender. The initiation process spanned 9 days, beginning in Athens with ritual purification, through bathing in the Eleusis River and offerings to Demeter. Participants then embarked on a 22-kilometer sacred procession from Athens to Eleusis, carrying branches called bachoi and engaging in communal hymns that created a liminal space between ordinary reality and sacred experience. The culmination occurred in the Telesterion, a massive initiation hall capable of accommodating over 3,000 participants. Here, initiates experienced what ancient sources consistently described as extraordinary visions involving brilliant light displays, sacred objects, and dramatic reenactments of the Demeter-Persephone myth. The Hierophant, or revealer of sacred things, guided participants through these experiences, which reportedly transformed their understanding of death, and provided assurance of a blessed afterlife. Modern scholars have speculated that the participants consumed psychoactive substances during the ceremony that facilitated visionary experiences. While this hypothesis remains debated, the consistent ancient testimony regarding the profound psychological impact of the mysteries suggests that participants underwent genuine transformative experiences that fundamentally altered their worldview. The mysteries embodied sophisticated philosophical concepts that transcended simple agricultural allegory. The myth of Persephone's annual descent and return became a powerful metaphor from the South's journey, suggesting that death was not an end, but a transition to another form of existence. This perspective offered initiates what Cicero described as not only a way of living in happiness, but also for dying with a better hope. The use of light as a central symbol, described by ancient sources as an extraordinary fire, represented divine revelation and spiritual illumination. The progression from darkness to light mirrored the initiation journey from ignorance to knowledge, from fear of death to acceptance of mortality, as a part of a larger cosmic cycle. Modern psychology has recognized the Eleusinian Mysteries as perhaps history's most successful example of large-scale therapeutic intervention. The rituals effectively addressed what psychologists term death anxiety, providing participants with a framework for understanding mortality that eliminated fear and promoted psychological well-being. The mysteries demonstrate how ritual, community, and symbolic narrative can combine to create powerful healing experiences, insights that have influenced contemporary grief counseling and trauma therapy. The emphasis on direct personal experience rather than doctrinal belief anticipates contemporary spiritual movements that prioritize individual transformation over institutional authority. The mystery's success in creating meaningful spiritual experiences without requiring intellectual assent to specific theological propositions offers a model for modern spiritual seekers who find traditional religious structure inadequate. The agricultural foundation of the Eleusinian Mysteries, rooted in the cycle of planting, growth, harvest, and renewal, provides a template for contemporary ecological spirituality. The myth of Demeter and Persephone symbolizes the Earth's annual regeneration and humanity's dependence on natural cycles. In the era of environmental crisis, the mystery's integration of spiritual experience with agricultural reality offers a holistic worldview that recognizes human beings as participants in rather than masters of natural processes. The egalitarian nature of the mysteries, welcoming participants regardless of social distinctions, models an inclusive approach to environmental activism that transcends political and economic divisions. The emphasis on shared human experience of natural cycles could inform contemporary efforts to build broad-based coalitions addressing climate change and environmental degradation. The mysteries created temporary communities that dissolved most social barriers and fostered experiences of fundamental human equality. The shared ordeal of initiation, the communal pilgrimage, and the collective encounter with sacred mysteries generated powerful bonds among participants. This model of community formation through shared transformative experience has influenced contemporary retreat movements, festival culture, and team-building practices. The successful maintenance of secrecy for nearly 2 millennia demonstrates how communities can create and preserve meaningful traditions that provide members with distinctive identity and purpose. This has implications for contemporary efforts to build resilient communities that can maintain coherence amid rapid social change. To conclude, the Eleusinian Mysteries represent humanity's most enduring attempt to address fundamental questions of existence through ritual, community, and direct spiritual experience. Their success in transforming individual consciousness while building social cohesion offers valuable insights for contemporary efforts to address psychological distress, environmental crisis, and social fragmentation. The mysteries remind us that human beings have always sought meaning beyond material existence, and that well-designed ritual experiences can provide profound psychological and spiritual benefits. As we face global challenges that threaten both human well-being and planetary health, the Eleusinian model of inclusive, experience-based spirituality that connects individual transformation with cosmic cycles offers a template for creating meaningful responses to contemporary crises. The mystery's greatest gift may be their demonstration that fear of death can be transformed into acceptance of mortality as part of life's eternal cycle, a lesson as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. The enduring fascination with Eleusis reflects our continued need for experiences that connect us with something greater than ourselves, while honoring both our individual uniqueness and our fundamental equality. In an increasingly secular, yet spiritually disoriented world, the Eleusinian Mysteries stand as a testimony to human creativity in crafting experiences that address our deepest fears while opening us to our highest potential. In this sense, the legacy of Eleusis shows us a diachronic path toward re-enchanting the world. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And of course, it's very difficult in just 10, 15 minutes to speak about the importance of those mysteries. So for those of you who want to learn more, I just said it is the third year we're coming here. So on our new site that we created for the new Eleusis Symposia, you will find similar presentations made last year by Poppy Papangeli and others on the theme. You will get the links tonight. So please, if you want to learn more and go deeper, don't hesitate to look into it. Now, my turn. Back in 2017, 120 citizens who mostly didn't know each other met in Delphi. We had one idea in mind, one mission. We wanted to create the World Human Forum. But we didn't really know how to do it. So we turned it around. We invited everybody to join under the title, Imagining and Building the World Human Forum. We wanted it from the beginning on to be a participative approach, a collective intelligence exercise. Back then, we wouldn't have used expressions like re-enchanting the world. No, that was not on our mind. But neither expressions, neither concepts. But it turned out that, in fact, that is what we were hoping to do. And only 2 nights ago, I woke up in the middle of the night, a little bit stressed with this symposium, and I finally decided to look up what AI has to say, when you ask it, what does it mean, re-enchanting the world? And here are some answers. They're not all of them. I curated it. I don't believe in what AI tells you directly, so I chose what for us was meaningful. So here it is. But what were we really trying to do? This small team of people, because there was a core team. Some of them are here today. Actually, all of them are here today. Just Jochen Sandik is not here because he's late, but he's coming. Irini Bataille-Papaligoura is here, co-founder. Jochen Sandik is joining us. But then, of course, the most important people in our team who have stayed with us since then, which are Myrto Pezula, Stavroula Chrysogianni, of course, Myrto Vounatsou, our creative and artistic director that I think you all know, and behind the scenes a lot, the person who does our sites, our beautiful sites, a very creative person, Kyriakos Giannatos. So, to them, more people joined, and here is just a photo of that first meeting. Look at those faces. There is joy, enthusiasm. Some of them will recognize themselves. I see a friend over there. Others joined later, but it's always the same impression. This is not a conference. This is a gathering of like-minded people. So I'm really glad I have the opportunity to go back to that. And this is how everything started for us. It became a journey, actually an organic growth process. It happened through encounters and ideas that blossomed because they were shared, initiatives that grew because they inspired us, opportunities that seemed to appear out of nowhere, some amazing synchronicity. You can call it the zeitgeist. Because think of it, how do you do it? How do you go ahead as a simple citizen initiative and you decide that we are going to create the World Human Forum? Our ambition was as big as our means were limited, because we wanted to create something new, not the anti-Davos, like what happened in Porto Alegre in the year 2000 in Brazil, where something very important, the World Social Forum, was created, standing as the anti-capitalist, anti-globalization forum of the world. No, we wanted something different. We wanted something that would recognize two very simple ideas. The first, that the economy has to be at the service of all forms of life and not the other way around. All forms of life, whether that would then allow both humans and communities to flourish. But the second thing we wanted to recognize is that there was a good narrative around. There was something wonderful happening in the world, but it was happening in a very silent way. It was coming from the ground. It was coming from the bottom up. Right now, while we speak, men, women, children are changing the world for the better. It is happening, trust me. And if you start looking for it, you will find it everywhere. And in fact, that's the reason why we wanted to create the World Human Forum. Outside, in the next room, there is a table. On that table, you will find books. Those books are books that we have been reading and that have inspired us and that we have connected with. One of them is this, Homo Sapiens, Collapse or Fulfillment. It was for me one of the first and most important things I read, because it speaks precisely about those weak signs that we don't hear, we don't see, but they are there. So if you are interested, you will find it. We actually, with the help of some Swedish partners, translated it from French into English so that it becomes more accessible. So we knew that there was that positive narrative out there. We knew that there were people that were acting not as consumers or as subjects, but as citizens. And here again, another book that I recommend. Citizens. You will find that also on our table. They are acting as empowered, often self-empowered citizens. They are acting as energized and responsible people who really believe that it is their obligation also to contribute to change the world. And they can do it because, first of all, they care, but also because technology today gives them the possibility to do it. Now, how complicated is it when we all met there and we had to decide where our priorities would be? For me, in Delphi, it was clear, because of my own past, involved for years fighting poverty and inequalities in the global south, in the poorest communities. It was mainly about social justice, fighting absolute poverty and inequalities. But during those years, I had learned not only that we needed the poor people in the driving seat to succeed, I had also learned something else, that we could not address the social challenges without the ecological challenges. Because you can work for years with a poor community, and in one night, a climate disaster, a drought, or a typhoon can destroy all your efforts. So that could not be enough. And that was actually the good thing about our Delphi meeting, because I was not alone in Delphi. There were others who started asking the right questions. They started saying, but wait, if citizens are the solutions, if the world can only change from the bottom up, then what about democracy? And what about the role of education? This is why you will hear more about it on Saturday morning. But then, of course, and there again, I think it is probably the biggest question of all, in the back of everything, what about inner transformation? Following Gandhi's famous words, be the change you want to see, we really believe that the world is becoming a better place every time somebody becomes a better person. This important question is actually at the heart of our work in Elefsina. Finally, and you will hear more about it later this afternoon, what about the arts? Here, I have to say, we weren't really expecting to be able, in such a short time, to achieve those three amazing films that have been respectively done in Delos, in Elefsina, and in ancient Olympia. The arts proved for us a wonderful opportunity, the most amazing low-hanging fruit we managed to use with important international partnership to create those inspiring and powerful art films. One of them, actually, Human Requiem in Eleusis. For those of you who will stay around, you will have the pleasure to discover or rediscover tonight in a new remastered audio version to be played and screened by Arte, the European cultural channel. But there is another dimension that becomes more and more important, and that is technology. And if you don't see it in this year's program in Elefsina, it's not because we have forgotten about it. It's in fact because actually it's an important side of our Delphi Cube. For those of you who will go next room, you can learn more about the Delphi Cube. and for those of you who will be there on Saturday, even more. So technology is on our Delphi cube, just opposite art. And there again, our beautiful Greek language shows us the connection. Techni και τεχνολογία. So, thank you again for Greece. But why isn't technology here today? Because, as you see on this little screen, we have invested other sides. Because we moved from Delphi, which is, of course, the original side, the side of the oracle, the side of the navel of the world, the place where you ask the right questions and sometimes get elusive answers, the place of dialogue, the place of amphictyonia. It was the obvious place to start, but not necessarily to stay. So, following a very opportunistic, I have to admit, approach, we moved to Delos, the beautiful open museum island, the center of the Aegean Sea. And from there, we moved to Aristoteles Lyceum in the heart of Athens. And then, finally, we came to Eleusis. Eleusis was not a place we had chosen. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I was approached 2 years ago by the unfortunately late president of the cultural capital Eleusis, Mrs. Despina Goulandry, to join in the efforts for Eleusis, I flatly refused. And I refused for several reasons. First of all, because we are a very, very small team, and I simply felt it was too much for us to take one more thing on. The second reason I refused, and I have to admit it, I didn't know anything about Eleusis. I wasn't aware of what was happening here in the past, and of course, even less why it could possibly be relevant today. But suddenly, I had one conversation with a friend of mine who is sitting over there, one evening in my place, and he spoke to me about the newfound interest in psychedelics, the newfound interest in consciousness elevation, in ego dissolution, in the need to find what you just heard from Mrs. Christina Merkouri, something that the Eleusis Mysteries have already been talking about for thousands of years. Suddenly, it seemed to make a lot of sense to come to Eleusis, but to come and to stay, not just to come for 1 year, because I thought we had the narrative we needed, the narrative that was addressing probably the most important crisis of our time, the crisis of meaning, the crisis of loneliness, the crisis of what allows us humans to flourish, to reach eudaimonia, to use a Greek word, in this very materialistic world we live in. So we came to Eleusis, and today I am convinced that there is no better place than Elefsina to hold this type of conversations. And I just hope you agree with me. Thank you.